Hello and welcome to another episode of Property-Pxrn Stars, the premium property podcast brought to you by your hosts David Lindley.
And I'm Nat Giggs.
And today our star is none other than Richard Austen, who is the Managing Director of By Design in Royston and South Cambs. Been in that role for 6-7 months now.
6, getting into our 7th month, yes.
Yep. And I think so far brought on 16 million pounds worth of property to the market. So quite a lot of activity in a short space of time, which we'll get into.
Yep.
But first of all, how are you? And thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Doing really well, thank you. It was nice to make time and get out to see you guys. So it has been busy, especially the last few months, just proportionately have gone crazy. So it's nice to take a break as well. So come see you.
This is a break. This is a holiday. Yeah. This is as good as it gets.
Let's see if we can break.
All good,
cool.
though.
So let's sort of do as we usually do, really, and talk about your journey from, your journey to operating in the premium market as you are now. Because that's what we focus on the podcast. So it's always good to hear people's backstories from how they ended up there. No one was born into the premium property market. So everyone's got a story. So how did you end up here then, Rich?
So I've had probably quite a journey. I know everyone has. But it's all started, I'll try and be quick for you because no one wants to hear my boring backstory of everything, do they? But so started way back when in construction. Trained as a surveyor, got a bit fed up with being in the office, stuck in the office quite young, wanted to get out on site, done that, had a lot of experience there. Went through some hard times when the construction industry and building was pretty tough, so then transferred straight into motor sales. Friend said, I think you'd be great at this, so give it a go, people are looking. So went into that, great training. The motor industry's got just some of the best trainers for sales that there is. Yeah, it's the corporate world of it is quite interesting that it compares to, say, you get quite a corporate world and then some more private sort of groups that work. But if you find a good group, you can get some of the best training in that industry. I have to say it's a really good standing for it.
For sales in general?
Sales. If you want technical sales training, and I'm taking anything away from the estate agency, obviously, there's some great trainers in that as well, obviously, Matt being one.
Company excluded.
I couldn't reach him under the table. I was trying
too far away
to kick him.
He's now quickly making some notes of which motor groups to start getting into and who to contact and start putting his services out there. But so it's a really good, I have to say, depending on what group you join, because obviously you have the different groups have the franchises for the different brands. I find that really interesting. Like I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this. I'm not like bought that many cars in my life or whatever, but I've never turned up at I had a weird experience recently. Never turned up at a car showroom and then someone give me the old. It's kind of a cliche, isn't it? Sometimes, So just on that, like, what kind of training do you get in that world? It's a really good standing for process and some technicalities. The problem is in that world, as I then went along, you get some great salesmen and you get some really poor salesmen, like you do anywhere.
Yeah, okay.
But the training itself, again, depending on the group, can be great. So it's just a lot about sales. It's just finding, and I happened to have some good managers and good training groups that I was at. But it's just gives you that structure, that process, and it's that finding a rigorous qualifying, pre-qualify, present, deliver, negotiate. It's that general sales structure that you can then take anywhere through any different industry. So it's a really good grounding for a structure. Client walks anything from someone walking into a dealership for someone picking up the phone and calling you about a property. So you've got that, how to get from A to B. You control the journey. Sorry, boring sales stuff, but you can control the journey. But no matter which way it might veer off, you're still getting to your end goal that you're dictating or that you're getting to.
Do you still use all this stuff day to day and stage?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely come with me from everywhere that I've gone. It's so transferable. But like you say, you can walk into some dealerships or everyone sort of says, I really hate car salesmen. They've got this really bad, because it's as soon as I'm on the forecourt, they're jumping on me and asking whether I want to view a car, what do I want to sell? And, there is that, but in sales, that's important. But as long as it's done in the right way. So then it gives you that great structure, but then a lot of the other trainers will give you the technicality, what questions to ask, lead, open questions, how to close. It's a lot of the sales cliches, and you can take that corporate side of it though, and as long as you use it well and you are a good person, the right sort of individual, you can learn from it and take that with you. But it's a really difficult industry. So I
Why
was
is it
there.
difficult?
It's a real, not that a estate agency isn't, but it's a real lifestyle thing. You're working, you know, you never have a whole weekend off. You're working every Saturday, every other Sunday, you know, every other week is a 6-day week. If it's high commission based, it's pretty much all commission based, near enough no sort of basics. So it's really tough when you know, I started a family, needed better hours, better work-life balance. You know, if you have a day off, you're not earning. You know, it's really like that. So just wanted to change out of it, and it gave me a great grounding in sales, but then moved that to a estate agency, which was just I love property. It's not just about what you're selling. It's great that you have, I wasn't really interested in cars. But moving into a estate agency, I love sales. Moved into a product that I got on well with. I loved property. The construction element of that came in well then. So now if I'm going round and somebody's talking to me about, oh, I wonder if I could do this and that, yep, I can give them sure advice that could be done, or this goes hand in hand quite nicely, and gives a little bit of confidence. It allows me to handle objections a little bit better, so that if, oh, I'd really prefer an open plan kitchen and this doesn't quite have it, right, you can do this and do this and do whatever it might need to. You don't need planning for that, and so on and so forth. So it's just quite a nice blend, especially with the level of property that we're talking about now and what people want to do with it. So left the motor industry, started working. I went straight in, actually. I was quite fortunate to go straight in at the sort of higher end market, valuing. I didn't even go into sort of a negotiator position, straight into valuing higher end homes. And it was quite nice because I didn't know any better. You know, it was just, right, take the sales process that I had before, go straight in, right, you've got this home. I was showed how to sort of value a property and been on a couple of valuations, and went, there you go, get on with it. And it was kind of, in a way, it was quite good because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that was quite a big thing to start valuing £1 million properties rather than your sort of 2, 3, 4 bed flats or anything like that. And I really enjoyed it, really enjoyed that. Then moved to the sort of more volume market for a different position, which, you know, just sort of high position as more of a manager role, but in the volume market. Enjoyed that for quite a while, built a great team and got on with a really great group of estate agents there. And then wanted to do something slightly different. And obviously we spoke a little bit, and hence getting back into the premium market.
Going back to the sales training for the car, like do you still apply that in the premium market, or is that more applicable to the resi volume market, or both?
Both. Sales training done right can apply right the way through everything. The principle of how you deal with someone is still exactly the same. Everyone, whether they're buying, you know, whether it be putting to cars, whether they're buying a sort of volume market property car, or a premium, or if you're buying a 2-bed flat or buying a £1.5 million, everyone wants to be treated the same, and you'll get the best result out of that individual if you nurture them in the same way by using the same process. So it's all relative, isn't it? If I was selling a £20,000 car, I'd still want to do the most, build the same relationship, use the same process for that individual buyer, because then I could hopefully negotiate better with them because I've built better rapport, got a better relationship with them, and then it helps you sell. This is the kind of sales part of it, sell the extra insurances, which makes me more money. You know, it's still that you get the most out of people, and then that person's a client for life as well. So when they change their car in 3 years time, who are they going to come to? They're going to come to you. So, and that's the same process for the high-end market, and then whether they're buying an Audi, Mercedes, Bentley. Same with the premium property market. Why wouldn't you use that same process and get the most out of people if you can? Yeah,
that's really interesting.
It's kind of served well through life so far, anyway, at least.
So you've been in a estate agency for how long?
Estate agency, I think this is bang on a decade now.
And would you say it's changed in that time from your kind of coming in? Because 10 years isn't a long time when you've done it for 29 years. Shows me age, but I'm always interested because I think the last 10 years seems to have advanced a lot. So tell me what your observations have been.
So I think I came in just as some things had moved on, and then it was like just stagnating a bit, and then obviously we came, you know, a bit of a whole new era with it. It was very much, when I first entered, it was still a lot about higher sort of staff levels. The modern marketing wasn't there as much. It was still very get it, list it, put it on Rightmove. You didn't have sort of videos. We were one of the first people to do professional photography standard at that time. It's come in, and not every property was. It might be a higher end home, but not every property was doing that. I was still taking photos. We took decent photos with our own camera, but not an iPhone or anything. So it was more about the traditional high street agency. There was still more people having a few walk-ins, but it was kind of reached that, gone from you didn't have Rightmove and it was just dependent on your local agent and coming in and networking there, to then Rightmove comes in and right, okay, that's a whole new level and that's not needed as much, to then right, okay, how do we up that? How do you improve on what everybody is doing on Rightmove? And it was just at that stage where everyone was starting to think, what could we do to stand out a little bit more from Rightmove? And then I've gone through the whole transition of going through, it was a few years before that, and then we've had COVID, and then since then, obviously, has changed dramatically. And the industry, and I think, has still got not a long way to go, but is going to be changing quite drastically in this short space of time.
What do you think is going to change drastically, in your opinion?
I think all clients' requirements are changing. I think the way they perceive the industry, because it's changed so drastically, and it's been a lot more in people's faces, isn't it, over the last years? You've got not just sort of the programs that you're selling Sunset and all the rest of it. There's a lot more of that about. People have always been interested in property, but all you really had was, it's like Homes Under the Hammer, wasn't it? And things like that. There wasn't so much reality to it. Now there's a lot more glitz and glam, and there's been so much more report on it in the last few years. I think people's perception is almost changing how they see how they should be treated. So in terms of the service that they want, I think it is people are expecting a much more one-on-one, and people really actually do appreciate that now a lot more. They really are looking for it and appreciate a lot more of it. And the marketing. I think the world of marketing, it's become, to try and summarise it a bit better, I think it used to be, sort of 70-30 split of that. Now it's much more, you've got to be 50% concentrate on your marketing and 50% customers. It's a lot more paramount of what you've got to do there to try and stand out, or people expect.
I heard something that was really interesting. It was forgive me if I said this before, but there was a Jeff Bezos thing. He was talking on stage somewhere, and he said, people always ask me what I think is going to change in the next 10 years. And he said, but people never ask, the real question is, what I think is going to not change in the next 10 years? Because that's what's to build your business around, is the things that are going to stay consistent in that period of time. And technology, what marketing looks like for the property industry in 10 years' time is going to be all sorts different to what it is today. And people are still going to want that personal service from an agent they know, like, and trust. And probably even increasingly so. I think that there's a market for it, of course, but where you'd have a valuer and team and eggs and all that sort of stuff, there's a market for that. But having that one-to-one service, especially in the premium market, from MA to completion, I don't think that's going to go away.
So what? Because you were working in a team, you were leading teams, and then all of a sudden you've gone, I'm going to take the leap into being a self-employed kind of owner of your own business in the premium market. Tell us about that step.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? Well, I mean, it's great because I treated where I was as my own business.
What were you scared of?
It's all the whether anybody cares to admit it or not. It's the financials and the security of it all, isn't it? You've got a house to pay for, kids, everything else. So it's that. I mean, I always treated where I was as my own business, thought of that. So I was kind of used to thinking about running a business. And always liked that. That didn't scare me. It was quite nice that I had that education, had that experience. But it was if this doesn't work, you've got to still pay the bills. You've got to put food on the table. You've got to do that. And as much as you've got the experience, been in it a long time, and know how to build and market, and I quite like that anyway. I knew I had a lot of the skills and experience there, but it's still the unknown, isn't it? It's still, oh God, if it doesn't work, what do you do then? But definitely wanted to do it. I just knew that that's what I wanted to get into and kind of move on to go from there.
I remember talking to you, it was a related point to that. There was the self-employed thing. I distinctly remember the conversation with you. It was the world of self-employment. I I wouldn't just say self-employed because that gets bundled in with like
Yeah.
self-employed agents, but being self-employed as a business owner. There was that, but it was very specifically around the premium property market as well,
Yeah.
wasn't it? And it was those two things together. So why the premium end of the market?
It just suits me. For me, it's not just, I don't say that in that, oh, I really want to just sell high-end homes and I love, I just want to sell these millions of pound property. It's not that. It's just the nature of how it works.
Yeah.
It's the lower volume, isn't it? I want to work closely with individuals, and by selling getting into the premium market, you can sell fewer of them. It's higher fees, you can earn more that way. But you don't have to be as busy. You don't have to sell 20 homes. You can sell half of them. You can sell 10 and still do it. So it allows the financials of it allow me to offer the better service to clients and work with the people that I want to work with and give them the service that they deserve and that I want. It just allows to do everything that I want to do within working with clients. Give them the best service, work with fewer but better quality. I think that's the summary of it, isn't it? It's just kind of lower volume, better quality. That's not to say that there isn't market for volume in industry and that there's anything wrong with that. This just suits me. I like to give my all to everything that I do. And I think that's what I got a bit fed up with previously. I was like, I felt spread thin and not doing the full service for each client. I just want to be able to do maximum and do it right for fewer, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I appreciate I look through the world with one lens, which is just the premium market. And like you say there, it's just, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I was speaking to someone else, someone that you'll know, Matt, and they were like, I'm not sure it's for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, how could you possibly think that? But that was just his nature, the way he was, the person, and wants to be in resi. And so yeah.
It is different though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not as fast moving. If you just want to be doing 7 viewings a day and listing 5 properties a week and just busy doing the doing almost, then yeah, it's not for you because things take a bit longer. You've got to farm clients a little bit more and you've got to be a bit more strategic about the properties that you're selling. You're not doing that. And if that doesn't suit you, then fine. But it again suits me because I've got a bit more patience for that. I want to be strategic. I want to get into the depths and the details of it. And do things a bit differently. Yeah, so it's not no right or wrong, it's just that suits me and that's the way it works.
So for anyone listening to this thinking of doing it, and they've just heard at the start when David said you've listed 15, 16 properties in that sort of 6-month period, because we're in month 7 from that perspective. What would be your advice about going out there? Because the biggest concern for anyone going into the premium market is, especially cold as well, is how the hell do I get an instruction? How do I get my first 2, 3, 4 instructions? How did you do that?
So it was interesting for me is that I started from cold. So if possible, don't do that. just don't do what I did. It all came out really quickly for me. Again, I'm harp on about my story, but if people can learn from it, then fine, so be it. But it's tough. I went from managing an office, not sitting behind the desk more, I was still doing valuations, but not out, and I hadn't been out seeing clients day to day for a little while. So it's not like didn't have that
in the back
name
pocket.
about and that sort in the back pocket. Not that I'd take any listings with me. Obviously, wouldn't take any clients with me. No, I'm sure no one's ever done that. But yeah, I didn't have that. But I knew again it wasn't scary for me to go out and start doing that because I know I'm bloody good at it and that's what I enjoy and fine. So sorry, long-winded story. Yeah, if you can avoid starting from cold, don't. I literally had to go right from having absolutely nothing to how am I going to generate this, get my name out there. And, a lot of people come from where you're known in the area and you've already got some referrals going and that sort of thing. Didn't have any of that.
Because you went into a different patch, didn't you?
Yeah, so that's the other thing is where I was operating, actually couldn't go that way just for licensing and everything. So I had to come out. It was good. It was where I was then had only recently moved to was my new patch and actually where I used to grow up. So covering from Royston up to now where I'm in Swayze. So that's sort of South Cambs from Royston, which is great. So at least I knew the areas that I was now covering. So I knew where to go and where I wanted to be, but I just hadn't been in there for a little while. Sorry, to get back to your question, I digress. In how do you start that and how do you get the ball rolling? Everything. It's just do everything that you can, be consistent. Obviously, it's finances as well. How much do you have to put into it? Look for the easy wins. Social media is great, and it's fantastic. You've got to do it. But a lot of people actually now almost put too much that way.
What do you mean?
I think so. I think everyone will just focus on social media, putting themselves, and probably put too much into a budget to boost and put their face around it. You've got to do that, and I firmly believe in the world of social media. I've been part of it for a long time. I'm not someone that didn't have it, didn't do it, and has now come to it. But I didn't use my personal page or anything. I started a whole new by design brand, and that's it. So starting from scratch in that theory. But people will miss the good old-fashioned door knocking, letter drops, leaflet drops, direct mail, but done in the right way. I think is still deadly important. My first inquiries actually came from direct mail. Well, sorry, no, I tell a lie. From social media, put that out there, had first inquiry for a buyer. Someone was saying, I'm actually looking to buy in the area that you are. Kind of got together, met up, what they're looking for. They were looking for something quite specific, but then used direct mail buyer letters. And that got me my first 2 inquiries and 2 listings. So that just went out to specific homes in the area. It was in Royston at the time. And I hadn't done that before. I hadn't done it for years. We just didn't do it as much in the volume market. But got that out there, and I thought this probably no.
So basically, that kind of was one of the first points. So you got your social media brand set up, separate to your personal. So this is my business. This is who I am.
Yeah.
That was out there. You started direct mailing for specific homes for a specific client.
Yeah. Okay. And door knocking. A lot of door knocking.
A lot of door knocking. And what was that like? How successful was that?
Good. A lot of people and a lot of agents don't like doing that. There's that fear of door knocking, isn't it?
What was your opinion of doing it?
I have no problem with it at all. I think done in the right way, there's no harm in it.
What is the right way?
Yeah, there you go. Do you know what? In the first...
Was it Chris Watkins, his bag of peas? Was it something like that?
Oh, it's the frozen pea thing, yeah.
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know.
I have watched the video, but it was a couple of years ago.
Something like he's come back from... I don't... You know,
Isn't it the peas are going to defrost in the car?
I can't
Chris is going to tell us off.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, Chris. I haven't seen it, but yeah.
I'm in trouble now.
Tell us about
it's good.
your experience in that.
I mean, for me, it's fun. You do get people that are just, as long as it's not a really brash sales, and I don't know what the fear is. For me, when I hear people say, oh no, people just put the door, I just open and have a conversation.
What do you think the fear is?
I think people are just scared of rejection.
So it's all
it's just all it is. But I think people, and this kind of, without sounding a bit too harsh as well, I think if you fear rejection, you've got to question whether sales is for you. Because you're not always going to get a yes from everybody. Even if you know that you're trying to do the right thing and you're offering the right advice and trying to do the right thing, it's not always going to be received well in the first instance. So you're going to get a lot of no's. So yeah, it's just, you've got to accept that you're going to get some, and that's fine. But I know that I was going and trying to talk to people in the right way.
How many doors did you knock, and to what sort of success, being confident at doing it?
Yeah.
What was your success ratio like? I'm just interested because I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I just thought I'd understand your perspective on it.
It's hard to measure success. So the first listing that came from a door knock was a door knock, 2 letters, and then a second door knock and some follow-up messages. So it took a bit of time.
Yeah, okay.
But it's all this is what I'm saying. You just got to be consistent across the board. If you go out on one lot of door knocking on one day, or even one lot of letters, and then expect something from it.
So rather than do like loads of doors and most won't answer, do a few but keep going back.
Yeah, it's hard to. I started.
And write to them as well.
I did the wrong thing at first.
Did you not write on the back of the business card saying, I can sell your house in some really dodgy handwriting?
Do you want a free second opinion?
Yeah.
Free,
I think if people, I'm interested because I was talking to somebody about building their new listings available. And I said, well, how many do you think you would need to talk to before you would get someone say, do you know what? I admire your courage. Come on, have a look. How many do you think? And this guy was like, probably 8, 9. I said, so not not as high as 10 then. So if you spoke to 10 people at their door in the right way, as you alluded to, you reckon one will probably say, yeah, come on in. And I said, well, how long do you think that would take? We kind of worked it out and was thinking, well, you probably have to knock on 20 to get to 10. So 10 into 1, you're probably talking about in the region of 15 to 20 hours worth of work to get one instruction. And again, we're talking about the higher end of the market, probably 12 to 15,000 pound of an average fee. And then what's the likelihood of you selling that? And if it's on the market and it's not being sold, what's the likelihood of you being able to change the strategy with a dynamic fresh approach and you've got no other houses to sell, so they're going to get 100% of your time, and we were like, well, it's probably 70 or 80% chance that we're going to sell it. So we kind of broke it all down and worked it all out, and it was almost like a guarantee that if you just knock on 20 doors, know that half won't even answer, and the half that do, one will say, come on in. And if one says come on in, there's a 100% chance that you're going to get it. So if you work that out in the premium market, especially when you're just launching and you're saying, I'm going to invest 20 hours a week, that's one listing a week. That's 4 listings a month. That's around 40 if you wanted to take some time out, listings a year. And even if you said you sold 50% of them, that's 20 listings and 10 exchanged in year 1 at £150,000 worth of average fee.
Yeah. I'm in.
Yeah.
But a guarantee, because you've got nothing else in the nicest possible way.
Yeah.
What happens is when people become a bit successful is they stop doing the things that got them there. Let's just say that's the strategy. Right? You've just said there's a direct mail approach. I've done this for a specific buyer. What I heard there is you met a buyer, you know, which stands out in itself. I then went and focused on an area and I got 2 listings from it. So there's another approach. And that's probably 5 hours a week, for argument's sake. If an hour on the phone to a buyer, or half an hour, or meet them, and then you prospect, and da-da-da. And there's people out there at the minute that aren't doing either of those things. And, you know, I honestly believe at the minute that people just, you said it, they fear rejection. But actually, if they spin it on its head, and you put, for 20 hours, you can have a £15,000 fee. For 20 hours a week, £15,000 fee. How would that sound? But you've got to do all of these things. So I'm going to work with you on what no looks like. And what the approach is, because the more no's you get, the better you get at asking. So you could probably get that from 20 to 10, still not answering. Out of the 10, probably get through 2 or 3 doors. And then all of a sudden the conversion rate goes up. So there's a route to market. And here's the thing, I'm sorry to steal your thunder here. But the premium market, if you look across it, for every 10 that are on the market, how many actually get sold by that first agent? And in what period of time?
I don't know.
I think that's changed. I think that's actually, that number's probably decreased in the last 18 months to 2 years as well.
That's where the opportunity
I think the first agent, I think as the second agent, opportunity is actually almost better.
I would argue that as a new start business, you don't want someone going to the market for the first time, because what's the challenge with that?
Usually, the good thing about, or put the other way, is at least with being the second agent, is that they've almost, you almost got nothing to lose. You can be absolutely honest about the pricing, right? You need to bring it down. Any objections that they have about saying it's clearly not you as the agent, you know, anything that you do is great from there. As long as you do what you say and you plan to, it's fine.
But this is the point. Sorry, Rich, but you can go out and list 10 new to markets and sell 2, maybe 3, or you can list 10 that have been on the market for 3-6 months, and I bet you could sell double.
I think especially in this market, pricing, everyone keeps talking about pricing. Pricing is so key. It was a little while ago now, a few months, but I went to a Property-Pxrn conference and Rightmove did I think I've shared it on the group, but Rightmove did a presentation there. And I went to the same one last year, they had a 25-minute slot, and it was great. This year, Rightmove came on and something like 23 out of the 25-minute speech they had. This is Rightmove. Every transaction,
okay.
everything, all the data they
Yeah.
have, 23 out of 25 minutes was just about price reductions.
It's incredible,
That was
isn't it? Yeah.
It's so sensitive.
To go back, just to give you a bit of a number around my doctor, because I know it was you've talking the metrics of it. Sorry, go back, David. Is I was invited in the first. It was about 10 door knocks to 3 properties, and I spent over an hour. I did a full-on valuation, pretty much, bar having done the research. Did a full-on valuation for one chap just from a door knock. I ended up spending nearly 2 hours in there with him, just from that.
Or straight, you knock that door and then you're straight into the
I stood there with one of the magazines in my hand. I've just been on the way to see another client. I know that you've been in the property. I've driven past a couple of times. How are you getting on? You know, is anything? I've got a magazine for you if you'd like to have a look at it. Just how's things going? Had a bit of a chat. He said, "Do you want to come in and have a look?" And did a full-on thing. So sorry, going backwards a bit, but yeah, it's just
so true. So yours is 10 to 3. So you should have listed 30 by now.
Should have done. But, and again, jumping forward a little bit, this is the stuff that I now, probably getting onto that, but this is the stuff now that I want to get back to doing more of it. I've actually got so busy that I can't do more of that. So that's actually what I want to get back to doing more of, because that's gone out the way for good reasons. But yeah, anyway.
Let's dive into, you've listed 15. How do you sell the houses? What's the process from there? Because I see on LinkedIn, Instagram, 99% of the videos are houses that are on the market. I don't see many agents at the minute in that end of the market talking about, I've sold this one, or that one's I've done 4 viewings on this at the weekend, managed to secure a buyer. And I think this is where the opportunity is.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, true.
So, and I think a lot of people are used to watching these lovely videos and they look amazing.
Coming soon, coming to market. Yeah.
I see Alex Moisey done a video about the coming soon videos, a bit of a piss take, if you like, on the fact that does anyone actually go, right, come here, look, we're going to watch this coming soon video, but there's a certain amount of that pre-launch and all these lovely things, which is a part of the marketing process.
Yeah.
But what's the sales process in the premium upper market if you're fresh in and you're trying to build your I suppose your buyer lists?
In terms of the best way to get property just sold, or to build database of buyers,
both,
or just getting it done?
Because one probably leads to the other, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, in terms of that, getting property sold at the minute, I mean, it's tough. There's no if and buts about it. The market is competitive at the moment. And David was speaking about it. Pricing is everything.
Yeah.
At the second, as long as it's, for me, listing property is doing the absolute best that we can, the things that we can control, stages of the marketing, the exposure and communication with clients. Just, you have to do all of that as best possible, and that is utilising everything that you can, from social media to Rightmove, making sure that everything stands out. It's things like, we know I like stats, and Mr. Gates obviously gives us a lot of those. Twilight hero shots give you 11% more interest. So it's just getting pricing right, but it's getting all of that done right, offering the right exposure and communicating regularly enough with clients. If you're doing all of that, then it's okay, what else do we have to look at and strategize? I have now started, again, through recent numbers and just kind of educating myself on how the market is at the moment, set with a lot of clients that we need to review things in the first 6 to 8 weeks. Because that's the time that just seems crucial in this market. If you're not getting the enough interest or looking at it in that time frame, you need to be doing something. Unfortunately, a lot of that is price. A lot of the time, it's not always. And you can say, "Oh, you get it right. You just should get it right in the first time." But at the moment, a lot of sellers still don't want to be competitive about pricing, or they still want to try for that little bit more because they, looking for that room to negotiate. This is a whole different conversation on pricing. Getting back to the original question of what do you do you need the listings to gain that database buyers. You need the listings to generate interest. And as long as you're taking opportunity of what those listings are giving you, i.e. the inquiries from buyers, and you're farming that database of buyers correctly, registering them, getting them signed up to your socials and getting your awareness, you just need to make as much of an opportunity out of each listing as possible.
Yeah.
So that's just one. That's going to help your business grow in terms of awareness. It's actually going to help you sell other property because that buyer might not hit on that property, but it might be on the next one. So listings, really, when you start, are crucial. Get them whichever way means possible.
And would you collaborate with other agents?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Why would you collaborate?
Because it's also...
just to clarify, what do you mean by collaborate?
Well, look, if I've got an instruction in St Ives and Richard's over that way, and it's my listing and it's a 15 grand fee, and he's probably got a little bit more age in that territory, a little bit more awareness, probably more customers.
Yeah.
I'd be going to Richard saying, right, I'll do the viewings, you just send me the buyers, and then we'll split the fee.
Yeah.
It's just as a thought process, because actually, in the nicest possible way, those buyers are going to become your buyers, and if they don't buy that one, you might be able to find them somewhere else. But at the same time, there's a really massive incentive there for an agent, literally just to introduce you to get then a potential big fee commission on something that they wouldn't have the opportunity to sell.
It's any way you can grow your network, right? It's when you're starting out, and if you are on the self-employed type setup and model, even if you're not really, it's a great way of building your branding awareness is collaboration, isn't it? If you're actually just trying to compete against everybody, you're not gaining there. Like that's an uphill battle. If you're actually collaborating with the right people in the right area, you're naturally growing. You're actually going to get help to get up that hill and get up that mountain. As long as it's the right people. It's funny how if you collaborate with people, they're the right people anyway. You naturally fall into the right circles and you get the right help. It's the people that don't want to collaborate with, you probably wouldn't want to work with anyway, because they are just trying to compete, and that only gets you so far.
Well, they haven't got an open mind, and more often than not, their closed mind is going to restrict their market as well. So it was just an interesting one, because I think there's a massive opportunity in the premium market for an agent that's probably going to explore more avenues to build the awareness of buyers and the network of buyers to their properties. And I think that's a great thing to be able to share with a seller, isn't it? I think we talked about Simon Hawksley before we met up with you. We talked about that principle of, well, look, every agent in the area is going to have access to your property. So if they've got buyers, I'll make sure they get the rewards. So in the nicest possible way, it works. It works for everyone. It works for the seller as well. So there's no one else that they need to go to. So you won't ever become ditched as the agent, because they know there's not really an awful lot of chance elsewhere.
It's a one-stop shop for you, right? So I will, with a client, as part of my fee and everything, it's like, right, I'll work with the local agent. Gigs, whoever it might be,
For
whoever
transparency,
it might be.
Richard works with me in Cambridgeshire.
Yeah, so it's the great opportunity there is for the premium end homes that we have and we're marketing, by design, they also then have the team of gigs locally working behind the scenes and utilising that database and everything as well, because we can work together. Why wouldn't we? And the client wins out on both sides then. They're happy. They also get that service and kind of marketing they're looking for at the higher end, but they get all the local access.
Do you think, you're experiencing this more than I am, David, when you look at the higher end market, how many agents out of 100 in the premium market think and behave and do like we've just explained when it comes to reaching out to other agents, collaboration, using the other strategies to try and attract buyers, and door knocking and all of those different things that we've just spoken about? How many would you say really execute that even at an 8 out of 10?
I think the good ones do. Like, a few things spring to mind on that. One example was previous guest on this podcast was James Scudder, who does, as far as, I want to talk about your marketing, Mitch, because it's really good, and his is on another level with flying around on jet skis and all this off the coast of Wales, and we'll get
up him at some point.
Get a tractor or something. But despite all of that, when he was talking to us, he was really clear that all that goes on, but it's the basics that go on underneath that. There is all the door knocking, all the basic canvassing that goes on underneath that to drive the business. I don't think there's losing sight of that. The other thing that sprung to mind when you were talking about that collaboration was, and this is, so an agent I know took on a property, and this property came about because it was almost an accident from a friend of his who runs a brokerage selling businesses. and this was a hotel. And there was some sort of accident with it where the person who owned the hotel came to them thinking that they were going to sell the building when he just sells the business. Right. Anyway, because that's a different, and this is just an interesting thing, that their fees to sell a business are between 5 and 10%.
Oh, okay.
So when this agent was introduced, because a friend of the business broker went in to say, oh, well, we don't sell the properties themselves, but I've got a colleague who does, went in, and his fee was just commensurate with that market, not the estate agency market. But because the client was talking to someone and their expectations were set between 5 and 10%, when you have a conversation about an estate agency fee, even if you do a strong fee, still looks like a bargain. So it was really interesting that a bit of collaboration outside of the box, outside of the industry, can really, really provide dividends.
Yeah, I mean, sort of coming back to that sort of how many out of 100, if you like, or whatever. I just think the majority can't be asked to even think outside the box, let alone do outside of the box. And that's where the opportunity is. They follow the same paths everybody else is going down, thinking that, just doing videography and presentations and marketing, that is just once you've got the houses on the market. What are you doing to sell them? And then what are you doing to find the next ones? And are the next ones new ones? Or do you want to have a clear strategy on going after the ones where other agents have not had the brave, courageous conversations with the owners? They've told them what they want to hear, and they're now ripe for the picking because they want a new agent with a new strategy.
Yeah.
And you just think there's so many little tiny things. Like you got Richard's down in Hertfordshire. I might ring Richard and go, Richard, I know you're self-employed. Have you got buyers looking to move up north with a budget of 2 million or 1.5 million? If you can send anyone my way and I sell them a house, I'll pay you 25% of my fee.
Yeah.
You might just get a little bit of reaction because he's motivated to do it. I had a lady phone me recently, and she's a self-employed agent. She was asking me about some of our guys in some of our businesses referring to her for buyers. And I said, the trouble is, they're not the right people to talk to. They're paid a base salary with a small commission percentage. Your best people to talk to are Richard and so on and so forth, because there's skin in the game for those guys, and there's not really skin in the game for the other ones. And you just think, well, how much outside of the box doing do people do?
Well, this is it. I think the industry, it's getting really, that crossroads is coming almost. Again, going back to when we first started, it was very much your high street agency, you're in your own lane, every agent's in their own lane, and that's it. But it's changing, like that kind of working for yourself and the rise of self-employment. And that's where that collaboration, I think it's going that way. It's exactly that,
healthy.
Working together, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's healthy.
It helps everybody.
It means you can access each other's properties. And if you've got those kind of bonds and networks, I think it's only a win-win. I think clients benefit. Let's be honest, if a client benefits, then we all benefit.
Yeah.
So but just how much effort, I wonder, goes in. Like we live, I'm in St Neots. It's synonymous for London buyers, London overspill, because of the pricing differences, and there's a commuter line and all of those things. And you just think, I could just pick up the phone to, let's say, a dozen agents who are self-employed, who are going to have vendors that are selling houses for, who want to move to this area. Yeah. And I could offer them an introducing fee, not a referral. Sounds better. Introducing. And but this is the thought. This is the point of this podcast. This is why we was talking about this earlier. Why we set up this podcast is to help people to not only consider their options going into the premium market, but when they do it with some conviction. Do it with a plan that doesn't look the same as the other guy down the road. Yeah. Or girl, just to make sure.
I've got a question for you, which is a slight change of subject, but it comes back to something. And what triggered me thinking about it was what you said about that car sales training. Yeah. So, and you can help me out with this. I'm going to ask you both a favour.
A lot of people are always interested in this training.
You can get me out of a hole here. So I got a message this morning it was on LinkedIn actually, from someone that I've known from ages and ages ago, but haven't spoken in a long time. A friend from school, really. She sent me a message. She goes, "Hey Dave, hope you don't mind me messaging you. I'm considering switching careers and looking to become an estate agent. Are there courses you'd recommend or approaches to take for someone starting in a new industry? Hope you and the family are well." I was like, How would you guys answer that question? You're someone
Send them my YouTube channel.
Here's what not to do.
Do you know any good trainers?
Free content, and there's a
do you
nice
know
little course at the end of it, which she or he
But someone
can take.
who is completely green to a estate agency. Now, based on everything you said about, firstly, with your sales training in the car and all the changes the industry's gone on and so on, because the sort of the usual answer that's come up on this podcast quite a few times, people keep saying like the corporates do a really good job of training.
So,
is that still the case?
No.
Like, what do you guys think? How would you answer that question?
I think it's depending.
Oh yeah, I think it.
I'll make notes, by the way.
It's really hard because the corporate background that I came from gave me a great stead, and I wouldn't want to have changed that. But I think with the way that the industry, our industry certainly is that I don't think you need to go and work for a corporate world in McConnell's or whoever it might be and have that sort of background. If you find a more independent or even a self-employed agent that's looking to expand and get one-on-one training with them, as long as it's the right person, because things are changing so much. For example, I've taken someone on to help me now, like it's got
Yeah,
so it's been that's quite interesting for me. Obviously, in my old job, I'd taken people on and trained people through that, so that's great. And hopefully, although we weren't a big corporate, still giving them that kind of sort of sales structure, not as in depth. Fine. This is now different. I think, right, when I take someone, how's this going to be? And without going around houses, obviously I'm doing this because it got to that point where I want to get back to the proactive stuff. So I need someone to come and help, which is great. So coincidentally happens to be my sister, but fine. So, if you can't trust family.
I don't think that's the definition of the word coincidence.
No, not coincidentally, also kind of typically. Do you work with family, don't you? But do you know what? She's going to be fantastic. She's kind of been in the industry a little bit anyway, side note, but yeah, it should be really good. But in terms of that training, it's going to be different because she's going to grow into what I'm doing.
Yeah.
A self-employed, or I'll say self-employed, more, I want whoever's working with me to deliver the same service and operate in the same way that I am. Don't have to start that way, but eventually grow into their own agent. So I'm doing this as a bit of a on-the-job training with me. It's literally her first day was a day in the life, because how I now work is completely different to how you'd work in a high street agent. I found that big change from when I went to high street agency to this. I thought, it's just going to be what I was doing, just I'm doing it from home and going out and see clients. No, it's completely different. The way that you need to work day to day, it's not just the sales training, the way that you work day to day is different. So to answer your question, depending on what route she might want to do is who you then try and work with.
I would point someone like that who's not got any industry kind of knowledge to someone like myself or some of the people that depending on where they live, and just say, go and observe, go and actually see what it really is all about.
To see whether you actually like it, whether it's not.
Do that first.
Yeah.
Like, take a day's holiday. You're not obviously going to get paid by someone to go and observe them, but you're going to be going in there and watching and learning. It's the best way because people can then see it for what it is. Because I think people generally, it's funny, isn't it? We've talked about this before, about the day in the life of a real estate agent. And it's like, you're thinking that's about 10 minutes work that you've just done, and part of that's drinking a coffee.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, is like and it's an interesting thought, isn't it? Like what has she seen that's made her say that?
Yeah. Well, as I was saying, it's probably all the recent, there's so much more media about, isn't there, with the programmes. But Matt's exactly right. The day in life, that's the first day that I did with Harriet. It's right. Met me first thing in the morning, 8:30, had a quick, this is what our day looked like. Fired off a few emails, registered a couple of hours, set up a few viewings, dashed out, picked up some keys, made a few client calls, done a couple of viewings, got back, summarised that, and it's like, Christ, that's a lot of work in a day, isn't it? Like, you've flown here, there, and everywhere. It's like, I thought it'd be a bit of a, you meet a few clients, have a nice coffee. She loved it, absolutely loved it. But it was that work experience like Matt's talking about.
Totally.
Just see if you've liked the idea of it. And fortunately, she didn't absolutely love it. But it's not.
See if the reality meets up with the expectations, and where you've gained those expectations from is also quite interesting. It is also interesting that both of you said, like I said, the typical answer that I've heard people say quite a lot is the corporate, good, bad, or indifferent, do a very good job of training, and that basic training is setting you up in the industry. But neither of you have said that. That's super interesting.
I think years ago, Countrywide were synonymous for their training. I remember sitting in the training room with tapes, and they'd be playing the tapes, and it was all very sort of methodical and logical and everything else. And it was, you go through these processes, and this is the structure and everything else. I think the training now it can be really simplified if you bring the right people that care in. So first of all, I think if you're going to be really successful in this industry, you've got to care about the kind of people that you're working with day to day. You've got to care about the people that you work around. You've got to care generally. And I think you can meet people, and within a very short space of time, you can tell whether people give a shit or not.
Yeah.
Then it's commitment. Commitment is one of the things that you can tell by looking at someone's lifestyle, whether they're committed.
What do you mean looking at someone's lifestyle?
Well,
that's interesting.
if they can't commit to being on time, if they can't commit to keeping themselves, I would say reasonably healthy, because this industry is mentally you need high resilience. To have high resilience and mental kind of well-being, you've got to do personal development. You've got to be very, very healthy in the mind, in my opinion. If you're not, you can take a lot of things personally. You can get bowled over by customers quite quickly, because customer expectations, have they ever been any higher than they are today?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You've got to be confident to manage expectations. You've got to be very, very, very strong in your personal self-worth. You don't get that, in my opinion, if you don't look after yourself. If you don't look after yourself, people will take advantage of you, customers included.
What do you mean look after yourself?
I think you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to work on your self-belief. You've got to work on your mindset. It's very easy to sit here and say it, but if you're going to be successful in this industry, you're going to lose deals at the last minute. You're going to have, like one of our colleagues has had recently, a sale not complete on the last day while they were away on holiday. That stuff does happen, and you're going to get complaints. You're going to have someone chase you up. You're going to forget to do something, or whatever it might look like. You're going to have a vendor that should rip someone's arm off for their offer, but they're going, absolutely not, we want more money.
Yep.
You've got to be so good at not taking stuff personally, that you're so self-assured in your own kind of, because you're working on yourself and you're looking after yourself. Whether it's drinking a load of water or eating the right foods, that'll give you more energy. When you've got more energy, you can take more. You can take more on board. You can learn more. You've got a more open mind. But I think people forget that if you're going to run your own business, it starts inside. It starts inside. The most successful agents that I see, they look after their mind. That's it, full stop. They believe in themselves. They're confident in what they do. They're not desperate. They're confident. They're confident enough to walk away from stuff. They're confident enough to challenge a customer. And that's because they're clear of mind.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. I find it hard, and I preach it, but I find it bloody hard, because it is freaking hard, isn't it? We live in a world where expectations are higher than ever. Everything's kind of like polarized. Everyone's comparing themselves to each other. You have to really, really focus your mind on what's important. You just said, I'm going to bring somebody in, I'm going to get back to basics. I'm going to get myself going down that route again. Because you can end up going around trying to please everyone, and you please no one.
Yeah.
It's similar to that. It's my kind of brother-in-law brought this to my attention. It's managing your bathtub.
Yeah.
Everyone's probably heard that, isn't it? But if that's getting full, you need to know when to empty it in certain areas, and you can't carry around a full bathtub all the time.
Yeah.
Work. If you enjoy what you do, you've got to enjoy it, haven't you? I'm messaging clients pretty much 24/7, but I don't mind that. I enjoy it, but I'm also managing my outside of work life correctly now. I went through a phase where I didn't. You guys know I love the gym, and that's my escape. Well, not the gym, but CrossFit anyway, so different story.
That's why Dave and I are wearing t-shirts today, because
we don't want to embarrass Rich with the gun show.
No chance. I'd rather sweat.
Well, we're going down the gym after this, aren't we? We're not having a beer. We're going to the gym, aren't we? But it is that. That for me is, I love what I do. It's not, but it's that escape. Like, right, during that time, that's my thing. It makes me feel good about me. It gives me confidence. generally that sort of person anyway. Matt likes to escape on golf holidays every other week. That's what he does. All that. But you're absolutely spot on.
You've got to have a switch off.
You do. Well, it's just finding the way to manage stuff. But you're exactly right. As we said at the beginning, if you're going to be someone that fears rejection, or you can't handle that, or you haven't got the arsenal to help deal with that, then you're going to struggle anyway.
But this is it. That fear, it's an inside job, not an outside job. Because if you said, I'm going to guarantee you 10, you knock on 20 doors and I'll guarantee you a £15,000 fee, would you do it? Some people would still not do it.
Yeah. They'd say yes, but they wouldn't do it.
But that's what I'm saying. It's an inside job. They'll just say on social media, I think door knocking's offensive, or it's a really bad thing to do. It looks desperate. That's maybe your choice, but does it really, if it's done in a way that's really effective? What if I said to you, go round to 20 houses and just give them a £100 John Lewis voucher? Would you do it then? But the point is that people don't, their perception is dictated by their mindset. Their mindset is dictated by how they feel about themselves. That's it. It's as simple as that. And I think that's where the best agents will forge their way forward and using the tools that they've got around them to grow their businesses. And I can see it out there already. It's amazing.
So, Rich, what does the future of the business look like?
You always start out and you think you have a plan for these things, don't you? But it changes. It's because the industry is changing. For me, at the moment, it took a long time to get going, and I'm one of those people. I'm the busiest person you'll ever speak to, because I'm either, if I'm busy with actual work, or I'm making myself busy. I've got this saying, like, busy makes busy. So if I at the beginning, even when I didn't have a lot of listings, and it was just, I was still frantic busy. I was out door knocking every day. I was out doing this. It's like, it should be that. Anyway, but in a shorter period of time, give it the last 2 or 3 months, especially since we've been working together, mate, that collaboration is great and really taken off. I've now got to the stage where I can't do all the stuff, all the good, consistent work that I want to. All the door knocking, that's important. I love that the reactive business is there, but we need to get back to that and generate more. So for me, it was how do I then do that? Take on more staff, or do you cut back work? I'm not someone that go, right, I'm happy with my lot. I know I can manage 14 to 15 listings. And that's all I want to do. Thank you very much. I might raise my fee a bit and average prices just to accommodate that. I'll do that, but I also want the opportunity, and I can see that the opportunity is there. So for me, it's bringing someone else in. Some people have different ideas of who they'd like to bring in. Some other people might say, right, I only want to bring somebody into the business that is experienced. I can just hand them over, give them an area patch or whatever, and help them, with leads in their area and that sort of thing. So they're self-sufficient. I like working with people, and I don't mind training people. And I quite like it, actually. So for example, I brought Harriet on, and I will train her to eventually do completely what I'm doing. So then she'll be a completely, self-sufficient agent in her own right, producing her own listings, managing those in the same way that I am, and almost have her own little business that goes on as well. And it's just, I think, building it that way for me.
Awesome. That's very exciting.
I don't ever want to just go, right, everyone else can, right, I've got values, they're taking care of that, and I'll always want to still deal with my own sales, but train and build other agents around me, so you have your own network that you can collaborate with.
That is incredible that you've gone from 7 months in now to starting your own premium estate agency business, and you're now at a point where you're so busy that you're at capacity and needing to take on what would be self-employed agents underneath you to accommodate the work. That's fantastic, isn't it?
But it's great. But that is down to collaboration, working with Matt, working with other people around. It's like, right, well, this is great, this is working. It's actually finding ways of making that work now even better. We started off and it's done great. Actually, we've gone, okay, there's things that we can fine tune here, and I don't want to lose that. That's brilliant. But also, there's this other area of opportunity. Don't want to lose that. So yeah, definitely, it's got the ball rolling, and to take more people on. So yeah, it's good.
So unless you had any other questions, Matt,
No.
I've got my final ridiculous question to ask.
Yes.
And the obvious ridiculous
Oh
question.
yes, yeah,
That I think you're prepared
Can you
for.
make one up?
yeah. I can.
Yeah. Anything to knock him off the top
Do,
spot.
yeah. I'm getting bored of sitting here on the top
Yeah,
spot.
no, someone's got to have them, Matt.
So for first-time listeners
Yep.
of the podcast, we are Property Porn Stars, and everyone, whether they know it or not, has a porn star name
Yep.
comprised of your middle name and your first pet's name.
Yes.
Currently top of the leaderboard is still, after all these episodes, Matt with Kevin Tiny, which just upsets me every single time we record this. Come on, Rich, what have you got for us?
It's not bad. It's pretty good. It's not as good as Kevin Tiny, but Anthony Max.
Oh,
Bad, is it?
Tony Max.
Tony Max.
Tony Max. There you go.
Pretty good.
That's it.
Gangster, isn't it? The porn star.
My border collie Max.
It's more like undercover, underground gangster sort of name, really, isn't it? But, well, Rich, I, a year ago you weren't anywhere near this market, and sometimes we don't always look at the distance that we've travelled already, and you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough. Those first few months, we think, oh God, and you're doing all this work, and you think, when's it come? But again, speak to the right people, do the right things, just keep at it, and yeah, you just got to hang on. But it'll get there, and love it, absolutely love it. Don't do anything else now. So for anyone thinking about it, just go for it, but plan it right.
Commit.
Brilliant. Rich, thank you so much for joining us.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching or listening to this episode of Property Porn Stars. We really appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See you soon.